You wake up and for a brief moment everything feels normal, then it hits you. That sudden, crushing weight in your chest, the realization that they are gone, that the person who was once your safe place, your routine, your comfort, is no longer yours. Your first instinct is to reach for your phone, to check for a message that isn't there. Maybe even go to their social media, check what they have been up to. Look for signs that they are hurting as much as you have been, or dreading to find the opposite is true. You stare at the empty notifications, hoping that they might reach out, but the screen is blank, just like the space they left in your life. Getting out of bed feels impossible. The world outside keeps moving, cars passing, people heading to work, life going on, but for you, time feels frozen. You sit in silence, mind trapped in a cycle of what-ifs and if-onlys. You replay conversations, overanalyze their last words, try to find hidden meanings in their silence. Did they ever love you? Was any of it real? You question your worth, wonder if you'll ever find someone like them again, convince yourself that maybe, just maybe, this was all a terrible mistake. But what if I told you that this isn't the worst thing that's ever happened to you? What if I told you that losing them was actually the best thing that could have happened? Not because you'll find someone better, not because time will heal everything, but because this experience, this pain, this loss, this moment of unbearable heartbreak is revealing something deeper. This breakup isn't just about them. It's about you. It's about the unhealed wounds inside of you that this relationship exposed. It's about the patterns you've been repeating, the boundaries you've been breaking, the ways you have abandoned yourself in pursuit of someone else's love. The pain you feel right now is not just about losing them. It's about losing yourself somewhere along the way. And this is your opportunity to finally wake up. If you ignore the lesson, you will repeat it. If you face it, you will never be the same again. This heartbreak is not a punishment. It is a mirror, showing you who you are, what you tolerate, and what you need to heal. So let's talk about it. Why this relationship was sent to you, why it ended, and why it's the key to your transformation. Part 1. Why you keep choosing the wrong people. No one ever thinks about why they fall for someone. They just assume it's love, chemistry, fate. But what if I told you that your attraction isn't random? The people you fall for, the relationships you enter, the heartbreaks you suffer, they are all patterns. They are reflections of your beliefs, your childhood experiences, your emotional wounds. If you keep attracting emotionally unavailable partners, if you keep finding yourself in situations where you have to prove your worth, beg for love, or wait for someone to choose you, then this isn't about them. This is about you. Your relationships are not coincidences. They are mirrors, reflecting what you believe about love, about yourself, and about what you deserve. Think about it. Why did you hold on so tightly to someone who was pulling away? Why did you stay in a situation that made you anxious, uncertain, and constantly on edge? Why did you ignore your own needs, convincing yourself that their happiness mattered more? The truth is, if love in your past felt like earning affection, chasing approval, or fearing abandonment, then your nervous system now associates that struggle with love itself. If you were anxiously attached to an avoidant partner, that wasn't just bad luck. That person was sent into your life to reveal something. That you seek validation outside of yourself because you were never taught how to find it within. That you confuse inconsistency with passion because you grew up believing that love must be earned. That you bend your boundaries and silence your needs just to feel chosen. But here's the truth. Real love doesn't feel like anxiety. It doesn't feel like waiting for texts. It doesn't feel like overanalyzing someone's mixed signals, wondering if you're enough. What you had was not love. What you had was a reflection of your wounds, sent to you to wake you up to what needs healing. Part 2. Your nervous system thinks pain is love. This is the hardest part to accept. You didn't fall in love with them. You fell in love with how they made you feel, uncertain, longing, craving. And if love in your childhood felt like unpredictability, neglect, or emotional distance, then your nervous system now craves that exact dynamic. Not because it's healthy, but because it's familiar. Think about it. If love once felt like chasing, then you'll always be drawn to the runner. If love once felt like proving yourself, then you'll always seek out someone who makes you work for their attention. If love once felt like inconsistency, then stability will feel boring because your brain was wired to mistake chaos for connection. So when you met this person, this unavailable, distant, emotionally inconsistent person, your nervous system said, "This feels like home." Not because it was good for you, not because it was real, but because it was familiar. And when they left, that void wasn't just about them, it was about your entire history of feeling like love is something that slips away. This is why breakups hurt so much, because it's not just about losing the person, it's about reliving every time you've ever felt abandoned, unseen, unchosen. Part 3. The love you were looking for was never in them. Most people try to escape their heartbreak, so it is natural you feel like you want to do the same. Maybe you want to distract yourself. Maybe you are trying to jump into another relationship. Maybe you or your friends are trying to convince you that you just need time or closure, or for your ex to come back. But the truth is, you don't need them. You need to face why losing them feels so unbearable in the first place. Because here's the harsh truth. They were never the source of love. They were never the source of your happiness. They were never the source of your worth. You just assigned those things to them because you never learned how to find them inside yourself. You relied on their attention to feel valuable. You relied on their presence to feel safe. You relied on their affection to feel whole. And now that they're gone, you feel empty. But here's the reality. They didn't take love away from you. They simply left, exposing the parts of you that always needed healing. This breakup is not the problem. It is the catalyst. This pain is showing you exactly where you've been abandoning yourself. It's telling you loudly and clearly that your next relationship cannot be about seeking wholeness in another person. Because the love you were looking for? It was never in them. It was always supposed to be in you. Because of potentially the way you grew up, your nervous system thinks pain is love. If you've ever found yourself obsessing over someone who hurt you, chasing people who don't value you, or feeling addicted to relationships that leave you anxious and drained, this isn't just emotional attachment. It's conditioning. You didn't fall for them by accident. You fell for a feeling, a familiar cycle your nervous system recognizes as love. If someone treated you with consistency, safety, and emotional availability, your nervous system would probably mistake it for boredom. Think about it. How many times have you met someone nice, someone who communicated well, showed interest and made you feel secure, and yet you felt nothing? You might have told yourself, "There's no spark. I just don't feel the same chemistry. Something's missing." But what if that feeling of safety was exactly what you needed, and you were pushing it away because it didn't feel like the chaos you associated with love? When you are used to emotional inconsistency, stability feels unnatural. It's not that healthy love isn't exciting, it's that your brain hasn't been taught to recognize it yet. Why does this happen? The brain and body don't crave what's good for them, they crave what's familiar. Your mind is always looking for patterns, things it recognizes, things it understands, things that feel like home. And if home once meant emotional distance, unpredictability, fearing abandonment, then when someone treats you with those same patterns, your nervous system feels drawn to them. Not because they're good for you, but because they match your internal blueprint of love. So what do you do about it? Firstly, recognize that attraction isn't always a green light. Just because someone gives you butterflies doesn't mean they're right for you. Butterflies are often just your nervous system recognizing past wounds and calling them love. Secondly, start paying attention to how love feels, not just how it looks. Love should not feel like anxiety when they don't text back, walking on eggshells afraid to say the wrong thing, a constant battle for their time and affection. Love should feel safe, steady, clear, consistent. Thirdly, learn how to self-soothe instead of seeking external validation. If your heart races when someone pulls away, pause. Instead of chasing, breathe through the discomfort. Instead of overthinking, journal your emotions. Instead of texting them, ask yourself, what am I actually looking for right now? Because the love you are seeking is not in them. It is inside you, waiting for you to finally give it to yourself. If this resonates with you, comment "I choose healing" below. Let this be your first act of choosing growth over comfort, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over self-abandonment. Because the moment you decide that this pattern ends with you, everything changes. You didn't just lose a relationship. You lost a vision, the idea of what could have been. You lost the comfort of familiarity, the sense of belong. You will continue choosing people who reflect your wounds rather than your worth. You will keep mistaking emotional unavailability for passion. You will keep chasing validation in places where it will never be given freely. But if you decide right now that this is where the cycle ends, that you will use this experience to finally heal, to rebuild, to become whole on your own, then this pain, promise me you are making that decision now. It will become the turning point of your life. You don't need closure, you need a decision. So many people stay stuck in heartbreak because they believe they need closure in order to move on. They convince themselves that if they could just have one more conversation, one more explanation, then maybe they could finally find peace. But here's the reality. Closure is not something they can give you. Closure is a choice you make for yourself. What could they possibly say that would take your pain away? Would hearing "I wasn't ready" suddenly make you feel whole? Would them saying "it wasn't you, it was me" erase your grief? Would "I still care about you" bring you peace, or just keep you holding on to false hope? The real closure is this. They made a choice. Now so do you. You can continue looking back, waiting for an answer that will never come, or you can choose to turn forward, to heal, and to start creating a life that is no longer defined by their absence. Because the truth is, you don't need a goodbye text to move on. You don't need an apology to let go. You don't need validation from them to start seeing your own worth. You are the one who decides when this chapter ends. Look at it like this. Your pain is a portal. Walk through it. Heartbreak has a way of cracking you open, exposing every insecurity, every unhealed wound, every hidden fear you thought you had buried long ago. And in this moment you have a choice. You can numb the pain, distract yourself, pretend you're fine, or you can walk through it. Let it burn away every false belief. Let it strip away every illusion. Let it transform you into the version of yourself that no longer seeks love in places that were never meant to hold it. This is not just the end of a relationship. This is the beginning of your healing. And one day, not today, not tomorrow, but one day, you will wake up and realize you are free. If you are ready to stop searching for closure and start creating it, comment "I choose myself" below. Let this be the moment where you take back your power, where you declare to yourself that your healing is no longer dependent on someone else's validation. Because the moment you stop waiting for an apology you don't need, that is the moment your life truly begins. Part 4. Identifying the limiting beliefs that kept you stuck. If someone didn't want to be in your life, why did you try to convince them to stay? If they made you feel small, why did you keep making excuses for them? If they weren't meeting your needs, why did you keep lowering your standards? The answer lies in your limiting beliefs, deep subconscious stories about love, self-worth, and relationships that have been controlling your actions without you even realizing it. And until you uncover them, until you rip them out at the root, you will continue repeating the same painful patterns. Step 1. Ask yourself, what did I believe about love? Every relationship you enter is shaped by the beliefs you carry about love. Maybe you believed, love is something you have to earn. If I'm not chosen, it means I'm not good enough. If someone pulls away, I must have done something wrong. If I let go, I'll never find love like this again. I'd rather settle for a little bit of love than risk having none at all. These beliefs don't come from nowhere. They were formed in childhood, through past experiences, through wounds you didn't even know you were carrying. Maybe you grew up in a home where love was inconsistent. Maybe affection was only given when you achieved something, had the best grades, passed all the tests. So you learned that love had to be earned, not freely given. Maybe you had an emotionally distant parent, and that made you chase emotionally distant partners, hoping this time you'd be enough to make them stay. The only reason you stayed in this relationship for so long is because somewhere deep down, you thought this was the best you could get. And that is what needs to change. Step 2. Ask yourself, what made me stay when I knew I wasn't happy? If you're honest with yourself, you weren't happy in this relationship. You had moments of happiness, yes, But there were also moments when you felt unseen, unheard, unwanted. Moments when you questioned if they even cared. Moments when you were the only one fighting for the relationship. Moments when you knew deep down that something wasn't right. And yet you stayed. Not because you didn't know better. Not because you didn't have the strength to leave, but because you were afraid. Afraid of what it would mean to be alone. Afraid that no one else would ever love you. Afraid that this was as good as it was going to get. So, let's get to the core of it. What were you afraid of? Were you afraid of the silence that would come after they left? Were you afraid that if they moved on quickly, it would mean you were never enough? Were you afraid that you'd never find someone better, so you convinced yourself to hold on to what little they gave you? Whatever it was, face it, because fear makes you stay in places that are beneath you, and the only way to break free is to stop running from it. Step 3. Ask yourself, why did I try to make someone stay who didn't want me? This is the hardest question of all. You knew they were pulling away. You knew they weren't choosing you. You knew deep down that you deserved more. And yet, you begged. Maybe not with words, but with your actions, by over-explaining yourself, by trying to prove your worth, by showing up for them even when they stopped showing up for you. But why? Because you were taught that love is something you fight for, that if you just try hard enough, give enough, love enough, you can make someone love you back. But let me tell you the truth that will set you free. You should never have to convince someone to love you. You should never have to explain to someone why they should stay. You should never have to beg someone to see your worth. The moment someone makes you feel like you are an option, the moment someone treats you like you are replaceable, the moment someone leaves you questioning your own value, that is the moment you walk away. Not because you don't love them, but because you love yourself more. And this is where your healing begins. Step 4. Rewrite the beliefs that have been holding you back. You cannot change the past. You cannot change the fact that they left. You cannot change the way they treated you, but you can change the meaning you give to it. If you walk away from this experience thinking, I wasn't enough, you will carry that belief into your next relationship. If you walk away thinking, I will never find love again, you will close yourself off to the people who are actually meant for you. If you walk away thinking, I need to prove my worth next time so I don't lose someone again, you will repeat this cycle all over again. So instead, what if you walked away with these beliefs instead? I am worthy of love that does not need to be earned. I will never chase someone to convince them to stay. The right person for me will never make me question my value. I will heal, grow, and become the kind of person who attracts love effortlessly, because I am whole within myself. The greatest transformation of your life begins when you stop looking for love in other people and start giving it to yourself. Because from this moment forward, you are no longer someone who chases love. You are no longer someone who settles. You are no longer someone who believes they are unworthy. You are stepping into a new version of yourself, one who chooses healing, growth, and love that feels like peace, not pain. 5. The final shift. You are no longer that person. Right now, you are standing at a crossroads. One path leads you back to the same patterns, the same wounds, the same cycle of seeking love in people who will never give it to you freely. This is the path of repeating the past, of letting your pain define you, of allowing your heartbreak to dictate your future. The other path, it's the path of healing, of choosing yourself, of becoming the kind of person who no longer seeks love from people who cannot give it, and the decision is entirely yours. Do you continue carrying this heartbreak like a weight on your back, or do you use it as fuel to transform? Do you keep longing for someone who has already left? Or do you take this as the lesson you needed to finally break free from your old patterns? Do you keep searching for love in someone else? Or do you finally become the source of love that you have always been looking for? Because here's the truth. You are no longer the same person who begged them to stay. That version of you, the one who accepted breadcrumbs, who settled for less, who kept making excuses for why someone else's inability to love you was somehow your fault, that version of you no longer exists. Let this be the moment. Everything changes. From this moment forward, you are not someone who waits for closure. You are not someone who needs validation to move on. You are not someone who breaks their own heart by chasing after people who have already left. You are someone who chooses peace over chaos. You are someone who chooses self-respect over desperation. You are someone who chooses healing over repeating the same painful cycles. And let's be clear, this won't happen overnight. Some mornings you will wake up and still think about them. Some nights you will feel the pull to reach out, to check their social media, to wonder if they ever miss you. Some moments you will feel like you are taking 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. That's okay. Healing isn't linear, but as long as you keep choosing yourself, even in the smallest ways, even when it feels difficult, you are winning. Every time you resist the urge to beg for love, you are rewriting your story. Every time you sit with your pain instead of numbing it, you are growing. Every time you remind yourself that you deserve more, you are stepping into the future you were always meant for. This is your new beginning. Your future self is waiting for you. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the version of you who is fully healed. This version of you wakes up in the morning feeling peaceful, not anxious. This version of you walks through life with confidence, not self-doubt. This version of you has stopped waiting for someone to choose them, because they have already chosen themselves. That version of you exists. That version of you is waiting for you to step into them. The only thing standing between you and that future is the decision you make today. Do you keep looking back, or do you finally turn forward and never look back again? Because the moment you decide, truly decide, that this pain will no longer define you, that is the moment you are free. And once you are free, you will never allow yourself to settle for anything less than what you deserve ever again. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to Stay Stoic. This channel is not just about getting over a breakup. It's about rebuilding yourself from the inside out. It's about learning how to be mentally unshakable, emotionally resilient, and completely at peace with yourself. If you are ready to stop chasing love and start attracting it effortlessly by becoming the best version of yourself, hit that subscribe button now. And if you're serious about transforming your mindset, watch the next video on your screen right now. Your journey isn't over, it's just beginning. Stay strong, stay focused, stay stoic.